How many clothes do you think you buy every year? 5? 10? 15? 25? 40? Now that might be your individual average, but the average Australian buys 56 new pieces of clothes every year. The statistics from the Australian Institute explain that the individual Australian will buy the most new clothes when compared to the rest of the world. And here's another statistic for you. 75% of Australians throw out clothes within a year of buying them because that piece of clothing is too small, too big, or they don't actually wear it. That is all these clothes on the floor here. Every single piece. That is insane. Even if your clothes are too big, too small, or you have to buy new clothing for work, school, or sport, you do not need to throw them away. You could hand them down to family, or take them to a second-hand store. I am sure the reason these clothes are thrown away that quickly is because they come from some cheap online clothing store and do not last. ABC News explains that 227 million kilograms of clothing ends up in landfill every single year. And that is only Australia. We have such a small population for such a large country. Imagine the global statistics. They would be huge. 86 billion kilograms of plastic packaging is produced, and 3 billion trees are destroyed every year just to store the clothing for transport. That is ridiculous. Why would we shop online, produce all this waste, just to throw our clothes away before a year has passed? The Carbon Literacy Program explains that fast fashion is the second largest consumer of water and responsible already for 10% of global emissions. That is more than maritime shipping and international flights combined. It is expected that the carbon footprint of cheap online clothing will produce 26% of carbon emissions by 2050. That is not okay. Do you really need to buy these fast fashion pieces? It is a want, not a need. Carbon emissions is what causes global warming, which has already taken effect on our planet. Lots of you would have noticed the severe wildfires, heat waves, droughts, and storms, which are all increasing at a dramatic rate here in Australia. Carbon emissions is the cause of all these strange weather patterns and side effects. Wouldn't it be so much simpler to drive 10 minutes to your local clothes store and buy clothes that are a little more expensive, but cheaper in the long run, and better for the environment? Lots of you would have noticed clothes stores closing down in our area. You might not have taken much notice, but this is happening all over Australia. And it is not just 1 or 2 stores. It is hundreds. These storefront businesses employ local people, as well as supporting suppliers, manufacturers, and delivery companies. When these stores are forced to close, all these jobs are lost. Not to mention the stress the ex-employees would be under, trying to find a new job to create a steady income. Many well-known stores have already closed. This will only continue if we continue to buy fast fashion products instead of local quality products. In third world countries, labour, exploitation, and environmental degradation have become even worse due to the fast fashion issue. As per a global measure, around 29.8 million people are enslaved because of fast fashion. That is more than the Australian population. This is modern slavery. As per the Australian Human Rights Commission, modern slavery is when someone is forced to work or do something against their will. And they are forced to stay and refuse to leave because they are tricked, threatened, and controlled. Not all enslaved people are refused payment entirely, but the largest sum is well below the minimum wage. And they're not all adults. Some are kids, younger than me. Could you imagine it? Having your life controlled and at risk 24/7. Your employer is a danger to your life. And they aren't even your employer because you can't leave. You are not allowed the basic human rights provided to everybody else. Or because some people in a first world country do not care, or maybe don't know, the consequences of their purchase. If there are no purchases, they can't be enslaved into fast fashion. So, now that you know the facts, it's important to think about what each and every single one of you can do. Stop buying cheap online clothing. Only buy what you need. Wear what you do buy as much as possible. When finished with them, donate them to a secondhand store or give them to those in need. You could even hold a clothes swap party with your friends so everybody gets to update their wardrobe. Lastly, take the time to think about the consequences of your purchase. You'll save money, assist the economy, help the environment, and well-being of others. It's a win-win situation. The only people who won't appreciate it are the owners of these sites. Throughout this speech, a lot of you might have felt like this didn't relate to you. In a way, it probably doesn't yet. But my generation and future generations are the ones who will suffer the consequences. So if you walk away and forget everything else, please try to remember this. 29.8 million people suffer under modern slavery because of fast fashion. On average, each one of you will buy 56 new pieces of clothing every single year. 86 billion kilograms of plastic packaging is produced, and 3 billion trees are destroyed every year just for the transport of clothing. 227 million kilograms of clothing is placed in landfill every year in Australia alone. Every single choice you make matters, and the change starts with you.